My name is William Adams. I've been at Microsoft for 19 years, and 2 years ago I created the LEAP program. Why and how LEAP was created is an interesting story. Our mission as a company is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. We cannot do that without a diversity of talent. So I ran around the company saying, diversity, diversity, what does that mean? What are we doing? And I found not a lot for directly hiring women and underrepresented minorities. So I just so happened to run across these things called coding academies. And I thought, well, that's where all the people are that could probably be good software engineers. Why don't we do a pilot program? And we started with 8 ladies, and at the end of it, we hired a couple of them. The people in LEAP come from lots of different backgrounds. I might actually have someone who was a rural farmer. I might have the barista, people who are biotech. There's lots of different walks of life, lots of experiences. We want you all. Diversity is more than just your DNA diversity, but it's about the diversity of your experience. So LEAP is very different in that it goes for a much broader spectrum of people. It's also unique in that the very first part of the program is 5 weeks of training. We're building their social network. We're building the social fabric that's going to keep them here longer term, so that when they finally get into their team, they can hit the ground running. People are able to land full-time positions if they want them. I think that just tells me that we had a proper formula. It worked. This is what I get the most pleasure out of. I can write all the code I want, and I've been doing it for 30+ years, but transforming someone's life and putting them in a different category and giving them a different set of opportunities than they would have had otherwise, that is much more powerful than any code I could ever write. So if there's any pride that I have, it's recognizing that.
So what is LEAP is a common question that we are asked. If you noticed in the video, William talked about diversity, and diversity, as we recognize, diversity is often measured by gender and race. But in this program, we're talking race, gender, as well as background and perspectives. That's the kind of diversity we're looking for in this program. LEAP is a modern apprenticeship program, and we've purposely used that word because none of our candidates are interns, so we don't quite qualify for that term of internship. But it's modeled somewhat after an internship. So that's a picture of our last cohort, cohort 6. We currently have another cohort already in place. And so these are some of the candidates. This is probably the single largest cohort we've had so far. So LEAP is a 16-week modern apprenticeship program. And we use the word apprenticeship because there is in part an educational component as well as on-the-job learning. What you're doing, our model is basically this, and I'll dive deeper into this in a little bit. It's a 5-10-1 model. 5 weeks of classroom learning, 10 weeks working on an engineering project, and then 1 week where you're doing a project fair, much like if you were a science fair, if you've ever done an internship, where you're showcasing your actual project. So during the 5 weeks, it's a structured learning environment. We typically recruit from a coding academy, which makes our program very unique at Microsoft. So what we see in our students is they tend to have one of 2 profiles. This is typical, it doesn't include all profiles. Typically, we see individuals who are career changers. Software engineering is a second career for them. I see a lot of mechanical or electrical, biotech, math, sciences, photographers, lawyers, doctors, whatever was in their first career. Engineering, software engineering is the second career for them. They either stumbled upon software engineering, actually loved it. They go to a coding academy, and they have at least web development under their belt. A second typical profile for us tends to be the returning parents, particularly the returning moms. I'm still looking for that returning dad to come out, but so far it's the returning moms. Their profile's slightly different. They tend to have a computer science degree, or they have experience in the industry, took some time away from their work, from their career to raise a family, and they too may go to a coding academy to get the refresher course. As a member of cohort 1, I fit that second profile. So I understand where you're coming from, because I was there once upon a time. So the program has the 5-week structured learning environment, and we do that because about 75% of our people do not have a computer science degree. And that is still an important component or part of our company. We talk about CS fundamentals, we talk about, at a high level, we talk about engineering practices, and that's an important thing as well, because most of you, if you come from a coding academy, you may be accustomed to a code base of 5 developers. Well, how do you then, if you come here and you're in a project, how do you step into a legacy code base from Office 365, right? It's a common question that we have. So we talk a lot about the Microsoft tools, Visual Studio, we talk about software engineering, but we also talk about those engineering practices that are not taught in either the university or the colleges or at the boot camps. The second thing that we talk about, and equally as important, is we're trying to forge a community amongst those LEAP members, right? It's important, we think, for long-term success of this program, for you to know somebody who's going through a similar journey. And so we spend 5 weeks in the classroom with those 2 objectives. You transition onto your engineering team. Each of the LEAP members are sponsored by one of the teams here at Microsoft, which means their sponsorship allows me to pay for salaries and equipment and some other things that we need to run the program. But they also give us a project. It's scoped out for the 10 weeks. It has a lead and a mentor that's assigned to the project. And then this gives the opportunity for both you and Microsoft to see the body of work. For you, it makes it an opportunity for you to see if this is a good fit. For Microsoft, it allows them an opportunity to see your body of work and to make a decision whether we want to hire you in, or at least interview you for a full-time position. The LEAP members are vendors, so the way we do it at the end is you're considered an industry hire. So after the program, you'd still have to go through an interview process. So you spend 10 weeks with your engineering project. I like to put out some of the sponsors that we have. I often use icons from teams that you recognize, but Microsoft is an enterprise company. There are lots of teams here that you've never heard of and who greatly contribute to our bottom line and our success. So I just like to point out just those ones that you obviously maybe have brand recognition with. The project fair. So you had the 5 weeks of classroom learning, 10 weeks of your project. Your last week, that 16th week, is spent back with us. And you're doing maybe mock interviews. Maybe we've had LinkedIn come in and teach us how to help with our profile. I'm trying to set up how to present, public speaking, and those kind of sort of the soft skills. But the big project is, or the big event is a project fair. That project fair is their opportunity, other hiring managers' opportunity to come in and see your body of work. Oftentimes, I'll tell the teams, by the time they get here, make sure your LEAP member knows your intention, whether you're going to interview them or they're going, or you're going to pass up on the talent, because we're starting to get people. Microsoft is beginning to understand what an apprenticeship program is, and they'll come into the project fair. They haven't sponsored. They'll interview people, and they hire them. So we're starting to get some traction with this and some success out of the project fair. So a typical question is, what are we looking for in the ideal candidate? So we look for candidates who have either a CS degree or have a at least that web development certification from one of the academies. If you're coming from the academies, we'd ask that you apply when you have a couple months of experience. And why? Because we want to see how you applied what you learned in the academies. So a couple months of experience. We look for people who have business acumen, who have experience in another field. A lot of the times I'll get the question, well, I came from biotech. Well, let's break that down. When you think about biotech, and if you're thinking about somebody who's in a lab, who's working in the lab, lots of the skill sets there are transferable. If you have somebody who's trying to isolate a variable to see what has caused the experiment, let's say, to fail, that's debugging, right? You're kind of isolating to see where the initial problem was. Part of what we bring to the table, that added value, is that business acumen, those skills you've already, because you've matured and you have experience out in the market, that is definitely something that the teams would like to see. So it's one of the things we look for when we're going through the application. The 6 to 12 months of experience of software development, I will tell you, for my purposes, I don't actually care if that comes from a paid job, because I don't ask you to reveal that. I don't care if you did it because you wanted to help a nonprofit. Lots of great nonprofits have projects out there that are available. And then I don't care if you strictly did it for personal development. What I want to see is that you used what you applied and how you did it. And really challenge yourself on some of those projects to see what you can do. I get a lot of the calculator kind of projects, okay. But think of also if you have 5 of you who were from the same academy and you all worked on the same project, how do you differentiate yourself from the others? What was your contribution? And sometimes what I'll see is the passion and that grit that comes from those others that go that extra mile to either say, that was a project, but I think we could have done it better because we did this. And they went off on sort of their own. Again, it was about personal development rather than something that they wanted to do to get out in the market. So that's interesting. The other skills, the problem-solving skills, those are typical pillars that we want in our LEAP members or our all Microsoft employees. Dealing with ambiguity. We're no longer in the age where we're doing waterfall methodology. We don't practice it a lot in the Microsoft space. So sometimes you may have to start working on a project that's not clearly, completely, fully defined. And dealing with that ambiguity and being able to take it and go make the ball run is an important skill that we look for in our LEAP members. So to be fully transparent, one of the things that I like to make sure is we talk about a great deal about all the good things this program can do. And it does do a great number of things. But I also want to make sure that you understand some of the things that I cannot do. Remember, you come in as a vendor. So there's a difference between the employer-employer relationship. So I want to make sure you understand that. Participants are not full-time employees. You come in as vendors. The vendor becomes your employer, which means for those, not this group that's here, but those who are online and when I distribute this video, there's no relocation package. So that has to be a consideration when you apply. Candidates must be able to work in the United States, and there's no job guarantee. But by the same token, you can walk in here to get the 16 weeks of training, have Microsoft credentials on your resume and say thank you. Now, it's my job not to let you do that, right? To make it such a great experience that you don't want to do that. But you can. So you can spend the 16 weeks, have a paid apprenticeship, and then still walk away. Okay? Timeline. The current, you can apply online for for this cohort. And I've advertised on the website that this cohort is only for our support engineers. We have somebody here who will talk to you in a minute about what that role means. We're going to keep the applications open to the end of this year. You can apply on the Industry Explorers site. That's the URL. Our program used to be called Industry Explorers, but it got confused with a College Explorers program. And so we dropped the name, but not the URL. And now I'd like to introduce Paresh. Paresh is here from the Azure engineering team, and he's going to tell you a little bit about what is the support engineering role.
Hi, my name is Paresh Haridas. I'm part of Azure Customer Experience team, Azure CXP as we call it. And our team is part of the Azure engineering organization. That means the team that builds Azure as a product. And we are focused on delivering world-class support and a world-class experience to all our thousands of Azure customers globally. And as part of one of the things that I want to call out is in one of the previous slides, Yolanda shared with you the various sponsors, and you might have seen Azure as one of the teams that was part of that list. And so Azure CXP, our team is sponsoring several members for the LEAP program. And the next LEAP cohort, the cohort 8, is specifically for Azure CXP. And we are looking at support experience or support engineer roles, for those profiles. And I wanted to share some time to get a little more into what are the various kinds of roles. So various teams, right? There are various ways of delivering support. And I want to kind of walk you through the kind of support modalities that we offer through Azure right now. So one of the things that you see here is real-time support. What that means is the customer is at the other end and you are providing real-time support to the customer. They can reach out to us via either chat or they can tweet. Azure is actually one of the very few products or very few technologies in the world that deliver support to our customers through Twitter. So let's say there's a consumer who's building something on Azure. They have an issue with how to run Azure VM. The VM is not booting up. All they have to do is open their Twitter account. They can say @Azure support and say, hey, I'm having this issue. And within 15 minutes, they will have someone who's going to respond back. And so that's the kind of engagement that we deliver to our customers. So that's one of the modalities. The chat support is another very unique one where we have a lot of trial customers. They want to try out Azure, try before you buy. So before they invest a whole lot on Azure, they want to try out Azure. So what they do is, let's say they build up a couple of VMs, they want to try out a few things, and then they run into an issue. So what they do is they can actually go to the Azure portal and click on chat, and they can actually have a conversation with us real time. So this is one-on-one real-time communication. So this is community support. In addition to one-on-one communication, another way that we engage with our customers is through community. And what that means is when people go to Stack Overflow or MSDN and so on, and then they have a question about Azure. Let's say they're trying to build out a new app and they want to on Azure and they want to get more guidance on how to do it, or they want to ask questions about, hey, how does Kubernetes work? And we want to explain to them. That's another modality. It's usually many-to-many. What that means is there are many customers out there. They want to learn more about Azure, and there are many people who are actually supporting. So you might have seen forums like Quora or other places, right, where people go and ask questions, and in addition to the subject matter experts, there is a community of people who jump in and kind of answer, saying, hey, I've done this in my company and this is how I've done it. And so that's the MSDN, Stack Overflow, Reddit. We've got a lot of other forums where we have presence, and we hugely depend on our community itself. So there are MVPs who actively contribute, and then we have full-time employees within our team, within Azure CXP, who are part of this team. And then this is another area. This is usually one-on-one. So the support via Azure portal. So let's say I have an Azure subscription. I actually go to the Azure portal and say I can click on the support option there and submit a support request. When I do that, those support cases come into our support organization. So there is a support organization within Microsoft that supports all of the thousands of Azure customers. And so that's where that happens. In addition to that, what we are doing is within Azure CXP, we are building a very niche team that's going to take care of our top 100 Azure customers. So that's what that means is every customer, let's say customer A, right? They will assign a support engineer to that particular customer. They're going to be working very closely with the customers to work on their most mission critical issues. So that's at a very high level. So those are the various modalities of how we deliver support to our customers. So some of the things that came up was what do we need? What are some of the cool things that are required in a support engineer? What does that profile really look like? So I've kind of broken it down into three pieces. So the soft skills first. One of the very important skills is the communication skills, right? Written and spoken communication. We communicate with our customers via phone, via email, chat, and Twitter, as you might have seen previously. And then customer empathy, understanding where the customer is coming from, having that deep customer relationship, and talking in the customer's language. the support engineer is sometimes like the doctor. So when people come to us, they're usually not, their systems are not in the best of condition. So you need to have that empathy and understand what the customer is really wanting to do, and then offer them that. And then cross-team collaboration. There are various teams across Azure which that you are going to be partnering with in order to support our customers. And in addition to that, at the end of the day, you just turn around and say, hey, I saw this very interesting issue, and maybe we want to fix this in our platform. It's not just something that we can just keep going back and fixing with our customers. We need to actually go back and fix this in our product. So we turn around and we work with the teams that are building these tools and services in the back end and go fix that. So there's a lot of cross-team collaboration that's required. And then the technical skills. From a technical perspective, having the dev skills is definitely a plus. But in addition to the dev skills, what we are looking for are some of the system admin kind of your core skills, such as OS fundamentals, networking skills, and database security. All of those kinds of cloud fundamentals is what we look for. And then, of course, scripting is always a good to have. And then I just called out other personality traits. It's kind of soft skills, but it isn't. Curiosity and dealing with ambiguity. This is something that you might have seen on a previous slide from Yolanda as well, but this is extremely important in the support engineer role. Having that deep understanding about what, when our customers reach out to us, they don't usually know what the problem is. And they know that something is broken, but they might not be able to explain to us what is actually causing that issue. So having that ability to troubleshoot and diagnose and get really deep into what the issue is, that requires a lot of curiosity, and then dealing with ambiguity, of course. And then accountability and ownership. When a customer is when you're assigned to a customer, or when you're looking at a case, you own that case end to end. And you want to make sure that the customer is getting the right support, and the customer has landed in the right place at the end of the day. So those are some of the very key personality traits as well. With that, I'd like to open it up for Q&A. Any specific questions about the support engineer role? Open for that. Long term, for our top 100 customers, we will be assigning support engineers. But from the way to look at this is, I just shared various modalities. So at that point in time, we are not really assigning any customer to our support engineers. For example, if someone goes to Twitter and tweets about an issue that they're having, we are not assigning an engineer, but the engineer is assigned to that particular case. So through the life cycle of that case, the support engineer typically owns it. There are, of course, scenarios where a particular issue might run beyond just a day. It might run for several days, and at which point in time we have a follow the sun model. So we've got team members globally spread out. So the case at the end of your shift, you just hand it over, transition it to another support engineer who then will work on it. So that's how it works. One of the things that we're doing for our cohort 8, which is specifically for support engineers, we are actually refining or changing the curriculum to a large extent, where we are removing a lot of the deep dev related pieces, and then injecting the curriculum with more some of the things that you saw under the technical pieces. So yes, to your point, we are changing the curriculum for cohort 8 to not be very software engineers focused, and make it more support engineer focused. So that's one of the things that we are doing.
On the second question you had regarding the application itself, we are first, we want to make clear to anybody who applies, this is a support engineer role, to make sure that this is their desire. And the second thing is we still look for those same skill sets that we're looking for. There's some technical skills that we're still looking for, as well as those soft skills, the grit, the determination, what you've done, your drive, owning things end to end. And one of the things I didn't cover during the presentation is during your application, one of the things I would suggest is the resume is going to tell me the projects you worked on. The essays are going to tell us what your drive, your determination.
Let's try this.
Oh. So your grit is going to come through in that. And so we're looking and evaluating both ends, both the technical skills as well as, again, that added value that you bring to the table. And we will do the same thing with the support engineer roles. There's only one track. It's support engineer. For this cohort, I am soliciting more sponsorship for another cohort that would be devs and PMs, but for this one is particularly and only dedicated to support engineers.
Having the dev skills is always helpful because one of the key components of troubleshooting an issue is actually going through the logs and understanding what the diagnostics are saying. So having that dev skills is always super valuable and helpful. Also, what then you can do is when you're working with the backend engineering teams and telling them, hey, this is particular things, these are a few things that's broken and let's go fix this. Having that dev skills is always super, super valuable. But having said that, we will not be working on any writing code as part of this cohort 8. So I think some of the expectations is you'll be probed in those areas of the soft skills. Obviously, we want to make sure that the people that we are bringing in have all of those aspects. You may be given scenarios where you'll have to explain, how do you deal with a scenario? How do you deal with issues when your ownership and accountability, those aspects. And then of course the technical pieces, we will assess those various areas. It's obviously not not everyone is going to have all of those skills, technical skills. So if you have one or two deeper skills, let's say you're really good at databases and working on HD insights and databases and so on, when the interviewer sees that on your resume, they know that that's the area that they want to dig in deeper.
During the interviews, we ask the engineers to ask questions that are for the technical skills, for skill sets that you have. So for example, if you say you know Java, it's okay to ask those questions in Java. If you say you know C#, then the questions are C# based. So we try to look again for that potential in the candidate. Our senior leaders are invested in developing the talent. And we know that 75% of the leapers do not have a computer science degree. We understand that. So we're not there to provide or give questions that are very CS fundamental, but we're looking for those potentials that drive, that makes you different from, let's say, another candidate. And so you don't have to be afraid when coming to an interview. You will whiteboard. It just won't be the kind of questions about CS fundamentals.
One quick thing that for the support engineer role, one of the other things is also we'll probably not be asking you deep dev skills. We'll not be asking you to write a program on how to do a calculator or something like that. It's going to be more conceptual pieces about OS fundamentals or databases. Let's say you come back and say, hey, I'm really good with networking. The questions might be more networking specific and so on. Granted, there's no coding. However, from a project fair perspective, we will be looking at, we'll be assigning specific modules of support related work projects. I can't get into the details at this point in time, but just be aware that the work that will be assigned is going to be something that you can deliver within a 8 to 10 week period of time, that you can clearly articulate and showcase at the end of the tenure.
And we're starting to see a couple teams kind of, instead of just providing a project, they integrate the LEAP members into a team. And so you would be part of a team that is responsible for shipping a feature. So we're seeing that, and that's somewhat of what we'll do in the support engineer role. And then what you're showcasing in this case would be, what you did during the time you were with the team.
Hey everyone, I'm Lorana. I was in LEAP Cohort 4. And so I started that in November of last year. And then it was 16 weeks. And then because we were over break, I didn't end until April of this year. And that's when I also got the full-time offer. So I started full-time here at Microsoft in April. It's a phenomenal opportunity to be able to be an apprentice at a company like Microsoft. So I did a coding boot camp down in LA. That was at the end of 2015. And then I finished that in March of 2016. I was working for about 6 months as a web developer down in Long Beach. And then I heard about this program through my coding boot camp, and I applied. I came up here. It's through LEAP that I'm at Microsoft. I've only been programming for 2 years. I just had my 2-year code anniversary. Microsoft, 2 years? No, what I can say is that this company deeply, deeply values diversity. They're really walking their talk with it. I have been so welcomed. I just actually started with a new team 3 weeks ago. So I'm pretty proud of myself. So I went through the second interview loop, and now I'm in Azure IoT, whereas before I was in security. So all I can say is just apply. And if you don't get in, you could also apply again. I think that still applies. The program's only going to get more competitive. So go ahead. I mean, you have nothing to lose. It's a phenomenal opportunity. And Tristy is here. She went through the program as well. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about your experience. Because what cohort were you in?
I was in the last cohort.
Okay, because she did the PM track, so it's slightly different. Do you want to speak to that a little?
Sure. So I was in the last cohort, and I came on through the PM track. And prior to this, I actually went to Green River College, and I did get a CS degree, but I got the opportunity to go through the PM track. And like she said, it's an amazing, amazing opportunity. You can change tracks whenever you want, getting that experience and just coming here to experience being at Microsoft is just phenomenal.
This particular cohort is being dedicated to the support roles only. So Azure has come on strong. They are sponsoring an entire cohort, which is the first time I've ever had a team sponsor an entire cohort. So there's that opportunity. But I'm not gonna, if you find another hiring manager who's in dev, then that's up to you. But this the opportunities are only in the the support engineer space. So you have to make that decision, given the information that we have. So we didn't want to open the portal for both dev and support at the same time, because I think most people don't understand the wonderful opportunities in the support role. And so given what they know, they'll choose maybe a dev role. So as soon as we are done with the application here, working diligently trying to get another set of sponsors for the next cohort, which would be cohort 9, and that would be devs and PMs. Typically we have devs, PMs in one cohort, and then this one has been support engineer. Now, as we're starting to, like Microsoft is starting to understand what the apprenticeship program is about, we're starting to get teams who will reach out to us and say, I love this program, I love the model, but can I need technicians in the data centers. Well, I'm not gonna open it up to all the devs, right? Or they like this program, I got sales staff. They don't need to be deep technically, they have a broader breadth of knowledge. So that's a different set of skill sets that we need for that one. So in those cases, I'm trying to dedicate the cohort strictly to that. But for the most part, it's dev PMs. For this cohort, 31 Told you, Azure came on strong. The cohort, the application portal closes in December. We will have our decisions made with interviews in mid-January, and we'll start the cohort in mid-February. I purposely leave about a month in between the time you interview and the time you come on board, simply because we recruit from across the country, so it gives people a little bit of time to get their affairs in order before they head out. It helps to have a little bit details. Sometimes the resumes are a little vague, so you're not understanding. And then we'll get batches of resumes from the same academy, and we'll see the same projects over. You can tell who's worked on what project because you start seeing them again and again. So it's important for you to identify, what was your role in that.
Can you put a link to your GitHub? I know in my application I just put the link right in.
Yeah, some people do put it on their resume to the link to the GitHub, and the interviewers will look at it. Try to get it to short and to the point, because I'll get, remember we're reviewing a lot, and you'll have just yeah. So there's, you have a few minutes to captivate our attention, so put those important key points at the beginning.
Having those customer skills is super valuable. So if you can complement your customer skills along with a little bit of the technology pieces, I think that's going to immediately get the attention of the the hiring managers or the people that are going to shortlist your profile.
So if you don't have any questions, we will be around. You can ask us individually. I thank you very much. For those folks online for joining us, thank you. And for those folks here, thank you for joining us. And I hope to see your application. Bye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All the best.